Trust is the foundation of any relationship. It binds two people together, fuels their love, and gives them the courage to dream of a shared future. For 9 years, Anna and I built our lives together on that foundation. 7 of those years we were husband and wife. It wasn't perfect, nothing ever is, but I believed we were happy. We had our inside jokes, our late-night conversations, and plans for the future that stretched into old age. But trust is fragile. It takes years to build, and only a moment to destroy. I didn't notice the first cracks. They were too small, too subtle to register at the time. Anna started coming home late, blaming new projects and tight deadlines at the advertising firm where she worked. "It's just for a while," she'd say, brushing a kiss across my cheek before retreating to the bathroom. At first, I didn't think much of it. She'd always been ambitious, throwing herself fully into every task. It was one of the things I admired about her. But as the late nights turned into weekends at the office and her explanations grew vaguer, I began to wonder. Her phone was the first thing that truly made me pause. Anna had never been particularly attached to her devices. She'd leave her phone lying around, sometimes forgetting where she'd put it. But now, it was always with her. She started keeping it face down on the coffee table, locking it the moment it buzzed. Late at night, I'd see the glow of the screen illuminating her face, as she smiled at messages I wasn't privy to. "Who's texting you so late?" I asked one evening as we lay in bed. "Nicole," she replied smoothly, mentioning her best friend. "She's stressing about her anniversary trip. You know how she gets." Her voice was light, her expression calm, but something about the way she avoided my eyes stayed with me. Then there was the night her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. I glanced at it instinctively, and the name on the screen wasn't Nicole, it was Jonathan. The message read, "Last night was amazing. I can't wait to see you again." My chest tightened, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. My hand hovered over the phone, the urge to read the full message almost overpowering. But when I heard the water shut off in the bathroom, I quickly stepped away. When she emerged, her hair wrapped in a towel, she smiled at me like nothing was wrong. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, her voice warm. "Nothing," I lied. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, while Anna was still asleep, I picked up her phone. It was locked, but I guessed her passcode. Our anniversary, and it opened on the first try. My hands trembled as I scrolled through her messages. Most of them were harmless. Chats with Nicole, work group texts, updates from her mum. Their messages weren't explicit, but they didn't need to be. There were plans for drinks, mentions of late nights together, and subtle confessions that made my stomach churn. My heart sank as I read them, each word like a dagger to the chest. When Anna woke up, I couldn't even look at her. I started paying closer attention after that. I noticed the way she'd rush to answer calls in the other room, the way she smiled at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. One Friday evening, she said she was meeting Nicole for dinner. I waited until she left, then grabbed my keys and followed her. She didn't go to the restaurant she mentioned. Instead, she drove across town to a small, dimly lit bar. I parked a few spaces away and watched as she walked inside. A man joined her moments later. "Jonathan," Jamie said. They sat at a corner table, laughing and leaning close. At one point, she reached across the table and touched his hand. He smiled at her, and she smiled back. I stayed in the car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Part of me wanted to burst in, to confront them both right there, but another part of me, quieter, more calculating, told me to wait. 2 nights later, she said she had to work late. I followed her again, this time to a hotel. I parked across the street and watched as she met Jonathan in the lobby. They embraced, then disappeared into the elevator. When she came home that night, I was waiting for her. "How was work?" I asked, my voice steady. "Exhausting," she replied, kicking off her shoes. "I'm heading straight to bed." "Ain't too late." "Funny," I said, "because I saw you with Jonathan." "Funny?" Her face froze, and for a moment she didn't speak. Then the lies began. She said it wasn't what it looked like, that he was just a friend, that I was overreacting. But when I told her I'd followed her, her defenses crumbled. She admitted to the affair. She said it had started months ago, that it didn't mean anything, that she still loved me. Her tears were genuine, but they didn't move me. Her words felt hollow, like echoes of a life we no longer shared. That night, I packed a bag and left. For weeks, I stayed with a friend, trying to make sense of what had happened. Anna called constantly, leaving messages filled with apologies and promises. She said she'd end things with Jonathan, that she'd do whatever it took to fix our marriage. Eventually, I went back, not to forgive her, but to face her. She was waiting for me, her eyes red and swollen. She begged me to stay, to give her another chance. I told her I needed time. "I'm sorry, and I mean it every word." Anna suggested we try couples therapy. At first, the idea seemed pointless to me. How could a few sessions with a stranger fix the mess we were in? But I agreed, not out of hope, but out of curiosity. I wanted to see if she was truly willing to confront what she'd done. The sessions were painful. Sitting across from Anna, talking to the therapist about the affair, felt like ripping open a wound that hadn't even begun to heal. Anna apologized over and over, taking full responsibility for her actions. She said Jonathan had made her feel something she hadn't felt in years: excitement, spontaneity, attention. She admitted that she had been unhappy for a long time, not because she didn't love me, but because she felt invisible. "You were always at work," she said during one session, her voice trembling. "And when you were home, you were tired, distracted. I felt like a roommate, not a wife." Her words stung, but I couldn't deny the truth in them. I had spent so much time focused on my career, assuming that our relationship would take care of itself. I told her that in therapy. "You should have told me," I said. "Instead, you went behind my back." "You're right," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I was a coward. I should have talked to you, but I was scared you wouldn't care." He savages out. The sessions forced us to confront the cracks in our marriage, cracks we had both ignored for too long. Anna begged me to give her another chance, to let her prove that she could change. "I'll do anything," she said one night after therapy. "I'll quit my job. I'll never talk to Jonathan again. I'll do whatever it takes." I told her I needed time. For the next few months, we lived in an uneasy limbo. Anna did everything she could to show me she was committed to fixing our marriage. She quit her job at the advertising firm, saying she wanted a fresh start. She gave me full access to her phone, her email, her social media. She even deleted Jonathan's contact information in front of me. But trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. I spent countless nights lying awake, replaying everything in my mind. The lies, the late nights, the hotel. Every time I looked at Anna, I saw her with him. I wanted to forgive her. I wanted to move on, but the anger and betrayal wouldn't let me. One evening, I went through some old photo albums, hoping to remind myself of the good times we'd shared. There we were, smiling at the beach during our honeymoon, laughing at a family barbecue, decorating our first Christmas tree together. Each picture felt like a punch to the gut. How could those moments be real when they had led to this? I started avoiding her, finding excuses to stay late at work or spend time with friends. Anna noticed, of course. One night, she confronted me in the kitchen. "You're shutting me out," she said, her voice breaking. "I know I hurt you, but I'm trying. I'm doing everything I can. What else do you want me to do?" "I don't know," I replied honestly. I don't know if I can ever get past this." Her face crumpled and she started crying. I hated seeing her like that, but I didn't know how to comfort her. Things came to a head a few weeks later. I was at a cafe downtown, meeting an old friend for coffee. As I waited at the counter, I saw Jonathan sitting at a table near the window. He was with another woman, laughing and leaning close, just as he had with Anna. My stomach churned, but I forced myself to walk past without a word. That night I told Anna about it. She looked horrified. I haven't spoken to him since. "Since everything," she said. "I swear." "I believe you," I said, and for the first time I meant it. The days that followed were a turning point. I started to see her efforts in a new light. She wasn't just trying to earn my forgiveness. She was trying to rebuild herself, to become the person she wanted to be. Slowly, cautiously, I began to let my guard down. It wasn't easy. There were still days when the memories crept in, uninvited and unwelcome. But there were also moments of hope, small glimpses of the love we once shared. 2 years later, I can say that we're in a better place. Our marriage isn't perfect. No relationship ever is, but it's stronger than it was before. Trust, I've learned, isn't something you can rebuild overnight. It takes time, effort, and an unrelenting willingness to try. Anna and I still go to therapy, though less frequently now. We've started making new memories, weekend trips, late-night conversations, plans for the future. Looking back, I realized that the affair didn't happen in a vacuum. It was a symptom of deeper issues, ones we both ignored for too long. That doesn't excuse what Anna did, but it helps me understand. Love, real love, is messy. It's painful and imperfect, but it's also worth fighting for.